A tool that we often take for granted as entrepreneurs is one that we carry around inside of us at all times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's our stories. Stories are your most powerful asset. And I understand why we take these for granted, because as entrepreneurs, as small businesses, we think, you know what, I gotta marshal all the evidence, I've gotta bring it, I gotta bring all the facts, I gotta bring all the data, and I've gotta line it up in a way that you can understand it, and I've gotta outcompete that next guy with all those facts, and I've gotta do this, that, and the other thing. And that's fine, and that's a purely relevant instinct to this thing we call entrepreneurial selling. The problem is it's not influential. There's a whole body of social psychological research now that is coming to the fore that suggests that your most powerful asset are actually your stories. Why? They do two things that facts do not. They provide context and they connect to emotion. We're awash in information. You and I, we have sources of information all around us, from digital to the old types of information, TV, radio, magazines, we got LinkedIn, we got Twitter, we've got all that stuff. And that's all wonderful. But if we have all that access to all that information, and we're awash in that ocean of information, so are the people we're trying to reach, so are the people we're trying to communicate with. And the question I love to ask is, aren't we just, when we're piling on facts, aren't we sort of adding to the wrong pile? Shouldn't we be making things contextual and giving you a chance to connect to something that is entrepreneurial and interesting about me and makes me different and makes me better? Those exist, that context exists in the stories that we tell. There's a really interesting set of studies that came out of Carnegie Mellon in 1997. Two women and a man walked in, three researchers walked into the undergrad student center at Carnegie Mellon, and they said, hey, undergrads, we're going to take a survey of how you use technology, and it'll take 6 or 8 minutes. For your trouble, we'll give you $5. And they got hundreds of people to take the survey. They took the survey, and two undergrads would walk out, Craig and his friend. And his friend would say, hey, Craig, did you give any of that money to Rokia and Save the Children? And that would be confusing to me. I'd say, I gave some money to Save the Children, but Rokia, what are you talking about, Rokia? What is that? And my friend, she would say, well, see, in my envelope with my 5 $1 bills, I got a pledge form from Save the Children. And it was a story about this 9-year-old girl called Rokia in Malawi, Africa, who is dying of a waterborne illness, and it's entirely treatable. And it was just a little bit of her story, and then it said Save the Children, so I gave her some money. Did you? And I said, in my envelope, with my pledge form and my 5 $1 bills, I also had a pledge form from Save the Children, but it said, in Malawi, Africa, on an annual basis, there are 9 million cases of waterborne illness, 11 million cases of malaria, entirely treatable, blah, 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 Save the Children. And yeah, I gave them some money. It wasn't a study about the uses of technology at all. It was a study about the power and influence of story. And here's what happened. Accounting for loose change in people's pockets, fact guy, me, on average, gave $1.14. My friend, on average, gave $2.38. There's a huge delta from what we know about the impact of facts and the impact of story. They've run these studies over and over, and it doesn't make any difference that it happens to be a charitable organization. It's with anything. The story gives us context and connects to emotion. And that makes all the difference. And so, of course, as entrepreneurs, we have to marshal the facts. Of course, we have to know what we're talking about. It's not all about story. But when you err and when you're trying to influence people, you need to be ready with a story, because it creates a world that facts do not. And oftentimes, we leave it very flat when we just communicate through facts. Story creates color, context, emotion, and influence. And that's what we're trying to do as entrepreneurs. We're trying to influence